Let's do this. And then we're going to go to regular ghost stories because they've gotten kind of stale with them on ChatGPT. Alright, I put your name in it, Ken. Let's see if you live or die. Ken stared at the blank canvas before him, his brush poised in midair. The room was dim, the only light coming from a single bulb that flickered intermittently above his head. He wasn't alone in the studio, at least. It didn't feel that way. For months now, Ken had been plagued by a persistent sensation that someone or something was watching him. Why is this not... It's not saying about a haunt... Oh, God, no wonder. I put the wrong thing in. Hold on. I put it in wrong. It says haunted mind, not haunted mind.
Tell the truth.
What? What do you mean, tell the fucking truth?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm following you.
There, I got it right that time. Fucking stupid ass things. Oh, here we go. This is called The Abyss Below. Ken adjusted his helmet, the beam of his headlamp slicing through the oppressive darkness of the abandoned mine. The air was thick and stale, carrying with it a faint scent of sulfur and decay. This wasn't the first time he'd ventured into the forgotten place, but something about this mine set his nerves on edge. Locals called it Black Vein Hollow. See, it always goes with that theme, and warned outsiders to stay away. There were.
What are you doing here?
I'm reading a ghost story. What are you doing here? There were stories, of course, whispers of miners who had vanished, screams that echoed long after the last pickaxe fell silent, and shadows that moved where no light could reach. Ken, ever the skeptic, see, common theme, dismissed these as folklore. He was here for one reason: treasure. Old records hinted at a rich vein of gold buried deep within, and Ken wasn't about to let a few ghost stories scare him off. The first hour was uneventful. Ken mapped the winding tunnels, marking his path with chalk. The deeper he went, the walls seemed to close in, the silence pressing against him like a living thing. Then came a sound, a faint tapping, rhythmic and deliberate. Ken froze, his heart pounding in his chest. Just rocks settling, he muttered. But the tapping didn't stop. It grew louder, echoing through the tunnels. Swallowing his fear, Ken followed.
Come forward.
I am here. His footsteps crunching in the gravel-strewn floor. The tunnel widened into a large cavern. In the center stood a rusted mining cart, its wheels half buried in the dirt. The tapping had stopped, replaced by a
Who is she?
Replaced by a low guttural whisper that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. Leave, the voice hissed, a cold breeze brushing against Ken's cheek. He swung his headlamp around, but the cavern was
experiment. Empty. Absolutely.
Just my imagination, Ken said out loud, his voice trembling. He turned to leave, but something caught his eye, a faint glimmer in the corner of the cavern. Gold. He rushed towards it, his fear momentarily forgotten. Kneeling down, he brushed away the dirt to reveal a vein of gleaming ore. Triumph surged through him.
Be quiet.
No, you be quiet. You're being rude. You're being real fucking rude. All right. That's when the whispers returned, louder now. They warned him, man. Fucking greed, man. Overlapping in a chaotic symphony of voices. Greed, pain, death. The words twisted in his mind, filling him with dread he couldn't shake. The ground beneath him trembled, and a deep, resonant groan echoed through the cavern. Ken stumbled back as cracks snaked along the walls, dust and pebbles raining down. A shadow moved in the corner of his vision. He spun around, his headlamp catching a briefest glimpse of a figure, a miner, his face pale and hollow, eyes like dark pits. The figure vanished before Ken could process what he had seen. Panic set in. Ken scrambled to his feet, clutching the pickaxe he brought with him. The cavern seemed to shift, the tunnels twisting and changing as if the mine were alive. He ran, his breath ragged, the whispers following him like a tide. Suddenly, the beam of his headlamp illuminated something ahead. It was a wooden support beam, and it carved into it were words, "The vein takes its due."
We're here.
Beneath the inscription, claw marks gouged deep in the wood. Ken's stomach turned as he noticed the marks weren't just scratches, they were formed in the shape of a hand. A scream tore through the tunnel, high-pitched and inhuman. It was close, far too close. Ken ran faster, the light of his headlamp flickering as if it, too, were terrified. He tripped, landing hard on the jagged ground. As he struggled to rise, he felt it, a cold hand wrapping around his ankle. Ken kicked and he screamed, pulling himself free. He turned, shining his light behind him. The miner was there, his skeletal frame barely holding together, his mouth open in a silent wail. Around him, other figures emerged from the shadows, their hollow eyes fixed on Ken. "You took what wasn't yours," the miner rasped, his voice like grinding stone. "Now you'll join us." Ken bolted, the tunnel twisting and narrowing until he could barely move. The walls seemed to breathe, the whispers deafening. His chalk marks were gone, erased as if he'd never made them. He was hopelessly lost. Finally, he saw it, a faint light ahead. Summoning every ounce of strength, Ken sprinted towards it. He burst out of the mine, collapsing onto the grass outside. The night was eerily silent, the stars above indifferent to his terror. Ken didn't look back. He left his gear, his maps, and a goal behind. But as he drove away, he noticed something in the rearview mirror. The entrance to the mine, glowing faintly, with shadowy figures standing just beyond the threshold. The whispers never left him. Even now, in the safety of his home, Ken can hear the quiet hours of the night. They're waiting, calling him back to Black Vein Hollow. And deep down, Ken knows he'll have to return, because the mine always takes its due. Hey, you lived with trauma. That's pretty much what they said. So you lived, man. You lived, man. If you guys want me to keep going with these stories, or do you want me to go and tell real ghost stories? It's up to you. All up to you guys.